How's it going, guys? Cody, guys, back again, dropping yet another video. Right, guys, big story coming tomorrow. It's what we call an embargoed story. For those that don't know, an embargoed story means that the media, they know about it, but they're not allowed to run any stories until like a certain time when the embargo gets lifted, and then they can release the information. And the information that's coming tomorrow, guys, is massive. Prison officers are going to be armed up and down the country in prisons in England and Wales, from Cat A's to Cat D prisons. For those that don't know, prisons are categorised Cat A to Cat D's, which are your open prisons. And all prison officers are going to be given PAVA spray. Now, PAVA spray is an incapacitant spray similar to what the police use. Now, it's been piloted in the past few months in 4 prisons, right? HMP Hull, Wealdstone Prison, Risley Prison, and also HMP Preston, right? And the reason that it's being brought in, I'll tell you straight, right? Now, obviously, we've seen record numbers of assaults from prisoner to prisoner and prisoner to prison officer year on year for the past few years, right? And obviously, again, this year, we've seen another record number of assaults and self-harm, right? Now, my personal opinion as to why we've seen an increase in violence in the last few years is because of prison conditions, treatment, mental health services that are inadequate, the amount of mentally ill prisoners within prisons, treatment conditions, and the latest thing, and the Prison Officers Association lobbied for this, and that is the smoking ban. For me, personally, as a former prisoner, the smoking ban is the straw that broke the camel's back, right? And tobacco, or burn as we call it in prison, has been used as a stress relief. If you were a smoker and you are in prison, you will smoke more than when you were stressed than when you were not stressed. But it's a currency, it's a coping mechanism, it's a de-stressor, right? And the Prison Officers Association lobbied for and was going to go as far as to pull a judicial review of Her Majesty's Prison Service to get it pushed in. Now, they tried to say it was on grounds of, it was about the officers' health and safety and all this, right? Prisoners were only allowed to smoke in the cell or on the yard, right? Now, they still allowed that on a yard, right? So they should still be allowed to keep the burn. But they're not, guys. It's been banned. By pushing it underground, it's become contraband. What does contraband mean? Because it's been made illegal, does that mean that it doesn't exist anymore? Absolutely not. All it means is the price goes up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, 10, 11, 12 times that, right, before it used to. The price goes up. It makes people rich. It obviously as well as the smoking ban, and obviously antagonising prisoners. Obviously, where you've got debt, where you've got contraband, so tobacco, you've got debt. Where you've got debt, you've got fear, intimidation, bullying, and violence. The POA, the Prison Officers Association, lobbied for it. They knew it was antagonising prisoners. They wanted to poke prisoners with a stick further. If it's not bad enough with us living in Victorian prisons with squalid, run-down conditions reminiscent of Dickensian England with cockroaches, mice, and rats, right? They wanted to take burn from the prisoners. They're trying to antagonise prisoners. I genuinely believe that, and I stick by that, guys. So what happened? Prisoners started violence increased. The POA, when the Prison Officers Association, that's the POA, when they lobbied for the smoking ban, they knew they'd see an increase in violence. Be careful what you wish for, right? They've seen that increase in violence. They used that. Then they walked out stating that they work in the most violent prisons in Europe. Well, we do have one of the highest prison populations in Europe. We do have the worst conditions in Europe, in my opinion. And then, like I say, they antagonise prisoners. Be careful what you wish for. They've used that increase in violence. They walked out, guys. They only agreed to go back to work. This was in the past few weeks. They only agreed to go back to work if they got X, Y, and Z. They've got one of the highest pay rises in recent years. They've got PAVA spray. They want rigid handcuffs. The Prison Officers Association, guys, national chairman, a guy called Mark Fairhurst, a scumbag that works at Walton Jail or HMP Liverpool, wants us in orange Guantanamo style jumpsuits. He wants us in shackles. He wants us in chain gangs. He wants us locked up 23 hours a day, which, to be honest, depending on what prison you're in, what regime you're running, some prisoners are locked up 23 hours a day anyway, right? The conditions are brutalizing prisoners. Does brutalizing prisoners, guys, right? Now they've armed prison officers. Does brutalizing prisoners, do you think that aids rehabilitation? No, it doesn't. Do you think that that's going to deter people from committing crime? No, it doesn't. Brutalizing prisoners, housing them in squalid conditions you wouldn't keep your dog in, giving them food that you wouldn't give to your dog, right? Keeping them locked up, mentally ill, right? And everything else that's going on within prisons, right? Doesn't aid rehabilitation, guys. Rehabilitation is a bullshit word. It's a politician's word. It doesn't exist. Rehabilitation does not take place in prisons. And I stick by that. I genuinely stick by that. Brutalizing prisoners succeeds in dehumanizing you, desensitizing you, demoralizing you, and making you even more disenfranchised than when you entered the system. And by brutalizing prisoners, it creates monsters. It doesn't aid rehabilitation. If anything, it goes right the other way. And the prisons minister, Rory Stewart, who's going to announce this tomorrow, you'll see what I mean, guys. Some people think I'm talking rubbish, saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. How would you know this information? Because a journalist rang me and said, we want you on the programme tomorrow morning. And then they've got to tell you what they want you to talk about. So they told me it's an embargoed story. Big mouth here, straight on Twitter, shouting it from the rooftops, right? And I stick by that, right? Guys, if the prisons minister, right, the truth is, he's over a barrel with his pants down, right, and the Prison Officers Association, he's in the pocket of the Prison Officers Association. And you've got to remember, guys, the guys that are in charge of the POA, National Chair Mark Fairhurst, wants Guantanamo-style jumpsuits, wants a shackled 23-hour bang-up. He wants tactical use of taser, guys. If you look down my timeline, right, and type in like ex-prisoner code, me on the news or something, do you know what I'll do? I'll put a link in the description below for the interview that I did with him. Listen to what he says, guys. He wants tactical use of taser in prisons. Brutalising prisoners further. Do you know what the thing is, right? When they collate all these prisoner-to-prisoner, prisoner-to-prison officer assaults, do you know what doesn't get calculated, guys? You guessed it. Prison officer-to-prisoner assaults. Because in the system's eyes, it doesn't happen. And it doesn't, guys. They've got body-worn cameras. They turn it on when it suits them. They turn it off when they're going too far and giving a prisoner a kick-in. But apparently, in the interview that I did with the POA National Chair, that I'll put a link in the description, brutalising prisoners doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't happen. They talk absolute nonsense, guys, right? And like I say, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions, right? In my opinion, it's a dangerous precedent to set because we're going to see increased violence. Because if you think that, right, if you spray PAVA spray on a landing, you've got to remember the air's recycled when I was in Forest Bank, right? It was artificial light and it was recycled air. So the air was just looping through, right? They're going to spray it. Other people are going to get caught up on it, right? The wings are not the largest, right? Do you know what I mean? Some wings are obviously bigger than others. Obviously, I've been in Strangeways, massive wings. I've been in Forest Bank, small wings, 2 landings, 90 prisoners on a wing, right, roughly. If you spray it into a cell, you're going to have a whole host of problems because of how small the cells are. For me, guys, it's the prison officers, in a nutshell, what I'm saying, the Prison Officers Association lobbied for the smoking ban. They knew it'd see an increase in violence. They've used that increase in violence to walk out of prisons, banned industrial action, guys. When the prison officers walk out of a jail, it's banned industrial action. They was ordered back to work. They went back to work when Rory Stewart pulled his pants down and agreed that they could sit down with him. They sit down with him, they pulled his pants down, and they had him over a barrel. And they've got the Ministry of Justice, the Justice Secretary David Gauke, and the Prisons Minister Rory Stewart over a barrel. What next, guys? They want rigid bar handcuffs, right? Police-style handcuffs. You know the ones with the plastic grip in the middle? They want that. They want tactical use of taser, guys. Right? They're going to increase the prison numbers are going up north of 90,000 by 2021-22, right? And shit rolls downhill, guys, right? Who's at the bottom of that hill? Prisoners. If you were a prisoner's loved one, right, and you see now that the Prison Officers Association are now in cahoots and have got the Prisons Minister and the Ministry of Justice in their pocket, right? They've not done anything for prisoners. They were talking about introducing Skype, right? It was being trialled in Northern Ireland, I believe. Have they rolled it out? No. It's all about coming down on prisoners. What they're going to do next? Take the televisions back off us that came in about 98, 99. Being in prison, guys, right, let me tell you, it's stressful enough as it is, right? Lord Farmer stated prisoners that get visits whilst in prison are 39% less likely to reoffend. What did the Ministry of Justice do? Ship people 200-300 miles away from home. In 2018, guys, right, you've got prisoners living in conditions that are as bad, if not worse. Apart from in-cell sanitation and TV's been brought in the past 30 years, guys, things have gone backwards. All the Ministry of Justice rollout is we are actively recruiting 2,500 officers. They recruited 3,333 or something ahead of time, right? For the 3,333 they've gained, they've lost over 7,000 guys, experienced officers. You've got kids that are in prison uniforms, right, that are patrolling landings with no life experience, that are wet behind the ears. You've got attractive girls being put on landings with guys, right, and sexual relationships develop. They start bringing in contraband and stuff like that, which then fuels the violence within the prison and blah, blah, blah. But the contributing factor recent times is the smoking ban. The POA lobby for it. Be careful what you lobby for, because they knew it had poking prisoners. Get a reaction, walk out, carried out banned industrial action, and then want to spit the dummy out when the Ministry of Justice reduce their numbers and their budget. You don't like no violence. Right, well, be careful what you wish for, right? Because prisoners now, guys, like I said, they've got PAVA spray, they've got extendable batons, they want rigid bar handcuffs, stupid amounts of, do you know what I mean? When he said about the taser thing, I said to him, I said, so what you want tactical use of taser? He said, yeah, I do. He openly, I'll put it in the description below, guys, you can watch it, right? And I said to him, I said, so you've seen the amount of mentally ill prisoners within the system. So say a prisoner's having a psychotic episode, right? Obviously, tasers are not installed yet, but I believe they're going to be. And I believe violence will breed violence, and I think prisoners will fight back. I think prisoners should fight back. Because I tell you straight, I would not want to be still in prison now. If I ever go back to prison, guys, for the amount of that I'll shut my mouth off and do interviews and speak out and stuff like that, they don't like it. When there's deaths in custody, they want to sweep it under the rug. When prisoners are attacked, they want to sweep it under the rug. Conditions, treatment of prisoners, mental health services, want to sweep it all under the rug. I shout it out there, and I'll keep doing my mouthy thing. I don't give two shits. But if I ever go back to prison, guys, I would not want to be in my shoes. I really wouldn't. But what do you guys think? For me, the POA, they lobbied for the smoking ban. They knew it had seen increase in violence. They've used that increase in violence to blackmail. That's what I believe they've done. Blackmail the Ministry of Justice. We don't get X, Y, and Z. That's why they walked out. We're spitting our dummy out. We asked for the smoking ban, and then they spit the dummy out because of the ramifications of what they asked for. I'll stick up for prison officers now when prison officers and the Prison Officers Association speak out for prisoners. But they don't, so it's down to people like me and other people like me. I'm nobody, guys. My opinion counts for nothing. My opinion is nothing. But if someone's going to give me a platform to shout my mouth off about prisoners, I'm going to defend prisoners and stick up for prisoners' girlfriends, prisoners' families, and prisoners that are up and down this country that are suffering immeasurably in jail. Anyway, guys, I'm sick of the ranting. Let me know what you think. Tomorrow, massive story. Nationally rolled out PAVA spray, been piloted in 4 prisons. Every prison officer in England and Wales is going to be given PAVA spray. And it's the first in many things that I think the Prison Officers Association are going to get. But let me know what you think. It's not about what I think. What do you think? Do you think it's going to breed violence? Do you think prisoners are just going to put their arms behind their back and walk down to the seg? Do you think prisoners are going to be brutalised any further and just carry on taking it? Treat people like animals, they'll act like animals. On that note, guys, let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.